Let's dive right into this explainer and trace the rather shocking, creeping history of how we lost our personal privacy, basically without even noticing. If you've ever felt like your devices are literally listening to you, or wondered how an online ad knew exactly what you were just thinking about buying, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to walk through the chronological timeline of the tech, the laws, and the corporate shifts that have completely eroded our personal boundaries.
Now, the metaphor of the boiling frog is absolutely crucial to keep in mind here. The old saying goes, if you drop a frog into a pot of boiling water, it jumps out immediately. But if you put that same frog in tepid water and just slowly turn up the heat, it won't notice the creeping danger until it's entirely too late. When it comes to our digital privacy, we are the frog. And today, we're going to look at exactly who turned up the heat, when they did it, and how they managed to get away with it.
Section 1. A dip in cold water, covering the 1970s through the 1990s. Back then, surveillance was mostly a government thing, and early digital tools felt remarkably innocent.
To set our baseline here, government surveillance isn't exactly new. Way back in 1947, Project Shamrock allowed the government to copy overseas telegrams completely without warrants. Then, in the 60s, Project Minaret monitored the communications of Vietnam War protesters, people like Muhammad Ali and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., again without warrants. This eventually led to the famous 1975 Church Committee, which investigated these overreaches and put some boundaries in place. But jumping to the end of the timeline, in 1994, a Netscape employee named Lou Montulli invented the web cookie. And honestly, it was just a tiny, innocent packet of data to help commercial websites remember things.
So the really critical point is how tools that started with totally good intentions were slowly warped into something else. The original 94 cookie was just meant to remember your login details, or maybe keep items in your digital shopping cart so they wouldn't just vanish when you click to a new page. But over time, those innocent first-party cookies mutated into modern third-party trackers. They were specifically redesigned by ad agencies to silently monitor your behavior as you move across entirely different websites.
Moving into Section 2, turning up the heat. The year is 2001, and the temperature of our metaphorical pot just suddenly spiked.
Following the tragic 9/11 attacks, the government's focus understandably shifted overwhelmingly towards security. Scholar Shoshana Zuboff calls this era surveillance exceptionalism. Basically, it was a state of emergency where all the old privacy rules were just tossed out the window. The mindset was that national security urgently trumped personal privacy, so the government needed to quickly connect the dots by scooping up massive amounts of personal information, completely bypassing the usual slower democratic processes.
To really grasp the sheer scale of this shift, just look at this number. The Patriot Act, which was hastily passed just 45 days after 9/11, vastly expanded government authority. It allowed the FBI to issue 192,499 national security letters, or NSLs, between 2003 and 2006. These letters let agents grab personal information like phone records and banking histories entirely without a judge's approval.
But the reality of that massive dragnet was kind of stunning. Out of nearly 200,000 secret searches, it led to exactly one single terror-related conviction. And actually, records indicate that specific conviction would have happened even without the Patriot Act. Plus, the wild part is, all that personal information obtained on innocent Americans didn't even have to be destroyed. It was just saved forever.
Senator Ron Wyden actually tried to warn everyone that the water was getting dangerously hot. He was referencing practices like sneak and peek searches, where federal agents could secretly search an American's home, take photos, seize property, and delay telling the owner until much, much later. On top of that, citizens who were targeted with those national security letters were slapped with permanent gag orders, literally forbidden from ever telling anyone they were being investigated.
Section 3. The corporate simmer, the 2000s through the 2010s. Now we're going to see how Silicon Valley watched all this government data collection and realized, hey, this is an incredibly lucrative business model.
So while the government was spying for security purposes, tech giants quietly started capturing our private data for profit. With regulators totally distracted by post-9/11 national security, tech companies were pretty much left to self-regulate. By 2009, the public finally found out Google was keeping search histories indefinitely. And by 2012, Facebook was targeting ads by actively scanning personal messages and mobile app usage.
Okay, let's unpack this fascinating concept called surveillance capitalism, which Zuboff explored heavily. Pioneered initially by Google right after the dot-com bust, this is an economic system where your private, everyday life is officially treated as free raw material.
Every single click, every search, every time you pause on a web page, it's secretly claimed, translated into behavioral data, and then fed straight into complex algorithms designed to profile who you are. Now, understanding the difference here is absolutely crucial. Normal capitalism is when a company collects your data with your clear permission just to make the product you're using better. Surveillance capitalism is a whole different beast. They collect way more data than they actually need to run the service. This extra data becomes what's called a hidden behavioral surplus. They use it to build predictive models, literally guessing what you're going to do, buy, or feel next, and then they sell those predictions to advertisers in behavioral futures markets.
And what if you realized the water was getting hot and tried to jump out of the pot? Well, the tech industry made it nearly impossible. When people figured out how to delete third-party cookies to protect their privacy, companies just invented sneaky workarounds. Verizon actually partnered with an ad firm to use undeletable zombie cookies that would instantly respawn the second you opted out. And today, we've got device fingerprinting. This collects unique, invisible data about your specific device, like your screen size and your installed fonts, to track you. It's basically a digital fingerprint that completely sidesteps the need for cookies altogether.
Section 4. The pot bubbles over. We've reached 2018, the explosive moment the public finally felt the physical heat of the boiling water they'd been swimming in. 87 million. That is the staggering number of Facebook profiles harvested entirely without consent during the massive Cambridge Analytica scandal. A data scientist named Alexander Kogan built this little personality quiz app called This Is Your Digital Life. But here's the catch. It didn't just collect data from the folks taking the quiz, it exploited a loophole to scrape the personal data of all their Facebook friends too.
It is really interesting to impartially compare how data mechanics shifted so rapidly in the political sphere. According to PolitiFact, during the 2012 Obama campaign, data was utilized to encourage supporters to reach out to their persuadable friends, essentially grassroots networking. But jump to 2016, and Cambridge Analytica, working with the Ted Cruz and Donald Trump campaigns, used unauthorized psychological profiling of millions of unwitting users. The goal there was serving highly targeted digital ads to manipulate behavior by leveraging that hidden behavioral surplus we talked about.
And the fallout from this was incredible. Facebook actually knew about this improper data gathering for months, way back in 2015, but they didn't say a word publicly. It wasn't until 2018, when former Cambridge Analytica employee Christopher Wiley blew the whistle to the media, that the whole world found out. The public outrage was absolutely massive. It wiped over $100 billion off Facebook's market cap in just a matter of days, eventually culminating in a historic $5 billion fine from the FTC.
Section 5. Reaching the boiling point. Present day. Finally, let's look at today, where the boiling water isn't just trapped behind our computer screens anymore. It's surrounding us in the physical world. Take our modern connected cars, for instance. They've transformed from simple mechanical objects into massive data-generating platforms. Researchers are literally calling autonomous vehicles a panopticon on wheels, like an all-seeing digital prison. They're packed with sensors. In-cabin cameras watch exactly where your eyes are looking. LiDAR lasers map your neighborhood as you drive, and GPS tracks your every physical move, beaming a continuous stream of your behavioral data straight back to the manufacturer. And the wild thing is, we've actually been conditioned to accept this. To get access to advanced features, like beta self-driving software, drivers have to willfully opt into invasive pre-monitoring. The car starts tracking your braking, your speed, your attention span to generate a safety score. If your score is high enough, boom, you get the feature. The end result? Drivers are actively modifying their own physical driving habits just to please the algorithm, essentially working as unpaid quality assurance testers for corporate AI.
So, privacy erosion in the physical world is pretty much total now. Auto insurers are leveraging these same tracking sensors, known as vehicle telematics, to constantly monitor your speed and location, adjusting your rates in real time based on their evaluation of your driving. And sadly, there's a massive digital divide regarding who actually owns all this data. Currently, thanks to specific state laws, mostly only California residents have the legal right to even request and see the driving logs that their own car is collecting about them.
Just listen to this incredibly chilling quote from an industry insider featured in the book The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. It reveals the ultimate goal here. The endgame of surveillance capitalism isn't just about showing you a targeted ad for sneakers anymore. It's about engineering your context. It's about knowing your emotions, your vital signs, and modifying or directly controlling your physical behavior.
like literally shutting your car down remotely based on what algorithmic data says.
So, the absolutely crucial question you have to ask yourself at the end of this explainer is this. We've gone from innocent web cookies in '94 to warrantless wiretaps, to hidden psychological profiling, to cars that track your every eye movement. Now that you know the water is boiling, are you going to jump out? Or has the sheer convenience of modern technology made the heat worth it? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.